History Month to me is about legacy. It's about the contributions of my ancestors, your ancestors. I have a story that tells of my grandfather, who was a sharecropper, 8 children. They moved to Ohio. He had a 3rd grade education. He couldn't read. He couldn't write. X was his signature. But he made it. That's my legacy with my grandfather. I have another grandfather on my father's side, and I unfortunately didn't have an opportunity to get to know who he was, but I come from some strong bloodlines. I come to find out that he was a Tuskegee Airman. I'm thinking, wow, where have I gotten all of this strength from? My mother, she used to pick cotton. The facilities were in an outhouse. And one day, she became educated, a cosmetologist with her own business and her name in lights. 83 years young and still going strong. That's excellence. That's my legacy. From the military that runs deep throughout my entire family, as is with perhaps many of yours as well. Black history to me, it's pretty amazing. 20 years in the Air Force, 21 for you, Dave? The Air Force Band of Flight was our home. This club, second home. Our National Museum of the United States Air Force, another one of our homes. As a matter of fact, speaking about legacy, I'm a little nervous to even have to say it. But when I retired, they requested my uniform. And in March of this year, it's going to be displayed in the National Museum of the United States Air Force. Legacy, Black excellence. It's where we come from. The contributions of our ancestors, they thrive. And so for me, this is 365 days a year. Do you see me?
Yes.
I am present. I see you. You are present. I thank God for each and every one of you today. And thank you for allowing me to speak my heart. And the gifts that God has given each and every one of you, we want to share with you today. My good friend and partner in crime, Dave Hayworth. Well, I should start first with this one. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Working in a coal mine, going down, down, down. Working in a coal mine, whoops, about to slip down. Anybody ever heard of that song? Can anybody tell me who sang it? Oh, history education by the name of Lee Dorsey. Lee Dorsey, 1966. Well, that was a famous song back then. There was also another famous song that he sang. Can anybody help me out with that? No takers. Oh, I love school. I love class. Have we ever heard of the Pointer Sisters?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Right? Yeah, you know. Jump. There was one song in particular that they sang in 1972. And it was about what we do. Because we can. We can do anything together. Because together is like, oh, we get stronger, right? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I know we can. Yes, we can. Great gosh almighty! I know we can. Yeah. So, as you can see, we're a two-man band. But we got our drums and the bass and everything. Technology is amazing. All right. And there might be an opportunity for audience participation. So, stand down. We're there. Oh, yeah. Take me to church there. Yes, we can. No, we can. Yes, we can. Great. That's your body if you want. Yes, we can. Now, did y'all get that? I hope y'all will memorize this, because that's a lot to say. We gotta take care of all the children of the world, 'cause they're our strongest hope for the future, the little bitty boys and girls. I know we can make it. I know darn well we can work it out. Yes, we can. No, we can. Work it if it's wrong. Yes, we can. I know we can make it work. I know we can make it if we try. Yes, we can. No, we can. Yes, we can. Great, gosh, your body if you want. Yes, we can. Woo! All right. I smell that food, so I'm getting edgy. Now, this is where I need your help. We're going to do this thing called a counter melody. Okay, I totally made this up. It's not in the original song, but I had to say, how can I get this great, big, beautiful choir to help me out? So just repeat after me. And if I got some harmonies out there, I'll take it. Here we go. Listen to this. Yes, we can. Did you get that? All right, do that for me, everybody. Here we go. Yes, we can. You better sing, choir. Yes. Do it again for me. Here we go. No, we can. Yes, we can. Why can't we? If we want, yes, we can. No, we can. Yes, we can. Great gosh, your body. If you want, yes, you can. Give yourselves a hand. We use people job. Woo! Well, I think it's official. We have become awake. Yes. I know it's Wednesday, and happy, well, I guess belated Valentine's Day as well. Yes. Hope you all enjoyed that. I hope nobody waited until the last minute to go get a card, or flowers, or candy, or anything. Some of y'all going, Yeah, they have been spoken to. I'm sure. So this next song is a little bit for the younger people. That would be all of us. But I just love this song. It's really, really cool. And I thought, you know what? We're going to do something from the 2000s. Okay, yeah. But the way that these young people sing now, they do this quick rap thing. At my age, I just don't have that. So, because Dayton is not only like the place of aviation, but it's also the birthplace of woo! Yes, sir. Yes. So we're gonna kind of funk this next song up for your enjoyment. And all you have to do is a little bit of this. And you'll feel it when it's there. Clap, clap, that's where it is. If you wanna run away with me in a galaxy and I can take you for a ride, clap, clap. Elevator rhythm, that's music. See, I told you those words are all over the place, right? Glitter in the sky, glitter in my eye, shining just the way I like. If you feel like you need a little bit of company, let me at the perfect time. You want me, I want you, baby, my sugar boo. I'll levitate the Milky Way. We're renegade, yeah. I got you, ooh, like you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'll levitate you, ooh, like you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'll levitate. Yeah. That's it. yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. Yeah, 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 yeah. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. Yeah, 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 yeah. Take it home. I need you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. Yeah. I told you I do that rap thing too well. Alrighty, so I have a little story to share with you. I was pretty stunned when I found it, actually. So in May of 1973, this next artist wrote this song in about 3 hours, a hit song. In August of the same 1973, this artist was in a near fatal car crash, left in a coma for about 5 days. A famous gospel singer at this time by the name of Ira Tucker came to this artist's bedside, had the song that they had written just 3 months prior, and began to sing it. And it was the first time the doctors saw movement as his fingers began to move as though he were playing piano. Stevie Wonder wrote this song called Higher Ground just 3 months prior in reference to what it would be like if we had an opportunity to have a second chance in life. Wouldn't we all love to have a second chance in life? To do better? Hit the reset button, start over again? This is Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground. now. We're hungry. I know that we're hungry. So we're going to wrap this up. All righty, here. You going to count for me? Who that artist was? Well, she did win a Grammy here last week, but Bonnie is correct. Last name? Tyler. Yes, sir. Bonnie Tyler. Somebody back there said, bada bing, bada boom, I got that right. Bonnie Tyler, 1988. Does anybody in this house know what other amazing song came from Bonnie Tyler? Go ahead, let's get it. Miss Tina Turner took that song 1 year later. International hit. Yes, shocked. Bonnie Tyler. This is her song. And Tina just happened to do her thing too. Yeah, she did. Yes, she did. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so very, very much for allowing my friend, Mr. Dave Hayward, and I to be a part of your musical afternoon entertainment. So very, very honored, very privileged. Sir, your voice, we can go on the road with that. Thank you. In the words of Maya Angelou, we love and miss you. You know, one thing I've learned is that people will forget what you did. People will forget what you said. But they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I hope we were able to do that for you today. God bless you. Remember, United States Air Force and all of its personnel, friends and family, we are the best. Oh yeah, here we go. Call you when I need you, my heart's on fire. Come
Harriet Tubman, who not only led enslaved Africans to freedom, but also led troops during the Civil War. Ida B. Wells. I love the story of Ida B. Wells, a couple of quick ones where one, she was the president of the Alpha Suffragist Club during the suffragist movement. And like many other things, the suffragist movement had racism involved. So they're marching in Washington, D.C., and she's told that she and the Alpha Suffragist Club needed to march in the back. Ida said, we're good. So as, marchers, when you watch a parade, you stand behind what's cordoned off. So when the marchers got to where they were, they just got in front of the line and marched. The other thing is, almost 70 years before Rosa Parks, Ida B. Wells sued because she was fined for refusing to go to the back of a rail car. She won her suit, $500 at the time, which would be about $15,000 today. The Harlem Hellfighters and Henry Johnson. I think it's really appropriate, especially here at Wright-Patt, to discuss. Harlem Hellfighters in World War I fought 6 months longer on the front lines than any other battalion in World War I. Henry Johnson, the most famous, and there are probably a few people in the crowd who are familiar with Henry Johnson, but probably not many. Henry Johnson was the first American to win the coup de grace, French Medal of Honor. He didn't receive that honor in the United States until 87 years after he was dead. In fact, his thanks and Henry Johnson was wounded. He saved 20 lives in the Battle of Argonne Forest, was wounded 21 times. When he was going around Europe talking about the exploits, because the French loved him, he received a letter from the US government saying, you can no longer speak about your exploits because you are no longer in the armed forces. The war is over, and you're speaking in your uniform. Tuskegee Airmen, of course, and their triumphs and what they accomplished. Accomplishment for Black people in America typically is a form of resistance that we don't talk about. The music forms, every music form created in America were created by Blacks. Jazz, the blues, and hip hop. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Think about Tommy Smith and John Carlos. I was 8 years old in the Olympics, and when my father, we're watching the Olympics, and when they raised their fists, my father said, this is going to be a problem. And consider they had their medals taken from them. Now there's a statue of them on their campus. There's also a copy of that statue at the Smithsonian in DC. Those of you who are old enough to remember when Georgetown was good, and during the 80s, how proud we were of John Thompson and his unapologetically being Black, and his team, and his resistance from those people who didn't get it, and what he was doing for Black young men. And you'll notice, if you think about all those players and the leadership, all those guys became leaders in the NBA. Most of them, Mutombo, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Williams, all served as the president of the union in the NBA. I mentioned the 50th anniversary of hip hop music. Dapper Dan, who is getting a lot of publicity today. He is the designer who gave a lot of hip hop artists their swagger. And he would design and repurpose Gucci and Louis Vuitton clothing. In fact, they all sued him because he was repurposing their clothing without their permission. But what they realized some years later was he was actually making them money. So they hired him. Opal Lee, we have Juneteenth as a national holiday, and we can thank Opal Lee for that. Opal Lee is over 90 years old, 50-year battle to have Juneteenth as a national holiday. That is resistance. And since the Super Bowl is just completed, think about black quarterbacks who refuse to change positions. James Harris, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts was told he was not good enough to play quarterback in the NFL. And they resisted those. But what about understanding proximity in this journey? And it's really, really important. So let me give you an example of proximity not related to race. And my friend Melanie Marshall can attest to this. I understood blindness better than any of my friends growing up because my aunt and uncle were blind. So I got it. Because of that proximity, in fact, my aunt was my first caregiver before I went to school, being blind. So when I went to the bank with her, I understood what she had to do. So I understood, because of my proximity, I understood blindness as much as a person with sight could. Some of the controversy, we were talking at our table about the divisiveness in the country, some of the controversy lies with people's lack of proximity. This is a little uncomfortable, but Be the Bridge has done research. 75% of white people in America have entirely white social networks without the presence of any people of color, which shapes a view of who black people are and people of color. And when you have proximity, you get an understanding. The movie Emancipation, anybody see that movie? The movie with Will Smith? He probably won an Academy Award for this if he had not done what he did a year ago. Because he's tremendous in this movie. It's the true story. And a lot of us saw this picture, and you'll have to imagine this in your mind if you haven't seen it. So it's got a picture of Gordon, who's an enslaved African, and he runs away from his plantation. Gordon had been beaten, and 60 days he's laid up. So the whole time he's laid up, he plans to get away from plantation. He knows if he can get to Baton Rouge, he'll be protected because Union troops are there. This was the George Floyd of its day, the picture of him with the whip marks on his back. Divine providence. So at 80 miles, 10 days, he rubs onions all over his body to cover his scent. He gets to Baton Rouge. There are photographers there. They take pictures of him. Northerners could no longer turn away. Southerners had to stop lying. It was the George Floyd, and many historians will argue it helped turn the tide of the war because people were able to see what this actually was. They put the photos in Harper's Weekly, which think of it as the People magazine of the time. So people all over America got to see this. You had these photographers, one of which, William Brady, one of the most important photographers in American history, was one of them, sent this. Their proximity to this issue helped them do the right thing. Booker T. Washington got together with a philanthropist named Julius Rosenwald. And Booker T. Washington wanted black kids who were, shortly after slavery, wanted to go to school. Julius Rosenwald he provided up to a third of the financing for almost 5,000 black schools to go up all over the country. Julius Rosenwald knew how important educating children would be to black families. And the ingenious thing he did, he knew black families would willingly give a third of the money. He gave a third, but he also knew Southerners who were in favor of segregation and didn't want their kids going to school with black kids would give a third. So he tricked them essentially into providing the money. Some of you realize and know, so once again, proximity is important. 25% of all the cowboys in the American West were black. If you include vaqueros, Mexican cowboys, 33% were black or Mexican. Don't see that in Clint Eastwood or John Wayne movies. But that proximity was important because they didn't face racism out on the range. They faced it in towns, But when you're, much like the military, when you're fighting with someone, when you're in a foxhole with someone, no matter what the race, you're trying to get home. And they're Americans. So they got it, they understood it. That was just really, really important. I'm sure a couple of you in the room have heard of Jack Daniel, whiskey, bourbon. Well, the person who taught Jack Daniel the business was a former slave named Nathan Nearest Green. Jack Daniel, see, when Jack Daniel was a little boy, he saw Nearest Green. He was a slave at the time, and saw him on a regular basis and knew he made the best whiskey in an area about 30 miles south of Nashville. And so when Jack Daniel became a man, he hired Nearest Green to be his master distiller. And they were friends. And if you go to Jack Daniel Distillery today, they tell the great story of Nearest Green and Jack Daniel's relationship because he understood what that was. One of my favorite stories happened in Detroit, Michigan in 1925. 1925, there's a black dentist named Ossian Sweet. It's a historic site now. Ossian Sweet buys a home, first black to buy a home in this neighborhood in Detroit. A lot of people were not happy about that. So about 200 Ku Klux Klan members are marching around the house on a daily basis. It's so ugly and scary that he arms himself, one of his brothers who's a doctor, and his other brother who was a student at Wilberforce. And they're protecting the home. One night it gets really ugly, and they shoot into the crowd and kill a Ku Klux Klan member. This is 1925, how is this going to turn out? Well, there just happens to be an attorney, the most famous attorney at the time, Clarence Darrow, who the Scopes Monkey trial, Loeb and Leopold, the crime of the century, who wanted the case. Here's a white man who wanted this case, an unwinnable case. But the reason he wanted the case is Clarence Darrow grew up in a home where as a little boy, his father entertained Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, William Lloyd Garrison. So he got it. He understood how important this was. And he won the case. This gave blacks all over the country. It's the first time a black person in America didn't go to prison for defending their property. And it gave blacks hope. How many of you remember when Indiana University was good in football? Well, they were in the 1940s. In the 1940s, they were really good. They had a player named George Taliaferro. George Taliaferro, his fiance, and none of the black students on Indiana's campus could eat anywhere in Bloomington. He goes to the president, Herman B. Wells, and says, Dr. Wells, there's no place that my fiance or any other black student can eat. In 1 week, Herman Wells got the policy throughout the town reversed. And a lot of people might say, well, he had power as the president. A whole lot of presidents before Herman Wells. But he did the right thing, and it impacted and changed the lives. George Taliaferro talked about that for the rest of his life, how that changed him. Another one of my favorite stories, also a military story. The first part is tragic, but what happened is what is the possibility of what can be. So Isaac Woodard, 1946, a year after the war, is in his Army uniform. He gets off a bus in Batesburg, South Carolina. Like many people do, like many black people, even today, have to be aware of time and place. He encounters white police chief who asked him a bunch of questions. One of the questions, Isaac Woodard mistakenly says yes instead of yes, sir. The police chief beats him, gouges his eyes out, and he lays in a cell for 2 days with no medical treatment. Harry Truman, who I would argue and say is the first anti-racist president in American history, even should probably get more credit than FDR, is so upset by what happens, he forms a Civil Rights Commission. Out of that Civil Rights Commission, we get the integration of the armed forces in 1948. Part B of the story is also important because at the same time, there's a judge, J. Wades Warren. J. Wades Warren has two things going on. And one thing, that story happened and impacted, but the other thing is, J. Wades Warren fell in love. He was having an affair with a northern woman who was progressive and had some views and was a civil rights advocate. And what happened to Isaac Woodard and his love for this woman changed J. Wades Warren from being a segregationist to a civil rights advocate in South Carolina, no less, at the peril of his life. Also at the same time, Brown versus Board of Education is going on. So we say Topeka, Kansas as the lead of the case, but there were several school districts as part of that suit. The reason we say Topeka, Kansas, Thurgood Marshall in all his genius knew he couldn't lead the case with a southern district. It would never get to the Supreme Court because segregation was legal in the South. So that's why Topeka, Kansas was the lead. But one of the school districts was where J. Wades Warren was, in South Carolina. J. Wades Warren brings Thurgood Marshall into his chambers and says, you're shooting too low. You gotta shoot for integration, not separate but equal. So out of the tragic situation that happened with Isaac Woodard, we get the integration of armed forces and the integration of schools. So in closing, I want to say that we have some decisions to make. Some of these decisions are uncomfortable. Some of these decisions we make will turn off family members. But some of these things are just right. I was also saying at our table, Sinclair, my favorite saying, and I try to say it every time we meet, Randall knows this. I love the Mark Twain quote, it ain't what I don't know that gets me in trouble, it's what I know for sure that just ain't so. And that's the space many people in this country operate in. It's the stuff they just don't know. It's why, and I guess I lied to some of you, I have to say, it's striking that Lift Every Voice and Sing is on the back of the program. It only is considered the Black National Anthem. That's a nickname. It was written because blacks did not experience the full benefits of what the national anthem was about. So when we have a constant controversy over the Super Bowl about the Black National Anthem, the only people who don't get it are people who don't have proximity. Because as I was saying, and I like this person a lot, I had a chance to meet them. You know who understands why the Black National Anthem should be sung during Black History Month, no less? Travis Kelce understands, his brother Pat Kelce understands, because of their proximity. You see, they went to Cleveland Heights High School, which is one of the most diverse high schools in Ohio. And they get it. They went to school with black kids and Italian kids and Jewish kids. So they get it. So it's not a thing. It helps you understand. So the challenge for us is, what will your resistance look like individually? Some of us have more agency than others, but that resistance can be on a lot of levels, whether it is teaching our children, whether it is going to school and advocating for those who don't have advocates. There's just a lot of different levels. And how will your proximity to black resistance help you support it? That's another really important question. Because see, a lot of times what I challenge people oftentimes at Sinclair about is, it's real easy to get head knowledge. That's the inner work, but the outer work is what we do once we have the information. And the outer work is more difficult. It's more difficult because it challenges people when they say, pardon the expression, crazy stuff. And it doesn't have to be combative. I think what's really important is, and I think for all of us, is to have people wrestle with themselves, not us. We do that by asking them questions, oftentimes, typically, that we know they can't answer. Because there is a right. Foresight is what's important. Foresight is infinitely more important than hindsight. Hindsight is what you do after you see the result. Foresight is seeing out there and knowing this is the right thing to do. It's Tommy Smith and John Carlos. That's foresight. It's Dr. King. When most people resisted him, now we have revisionist history and everybody loves him. He was not beloved when he was murdered. So foresight is important. What will we do with that resistance in support of it? Will we resist, and how we would support that? How we would support that resistance? Thank you.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in your path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Thank you.
That is awesome. Can we get another round of applause for Ms. Wright? This concludes our luncheon, so thank you for supporting the event and making a difference in the lives of others.